17, fourth grade moving on ceremony. Obviously we got a full house here. I apologize, we actually used every chair in the house, but we got an overflow crowd. I think next year we might have to ask people to bring their own chairs, but we have a great turnout, and I want to thank everyone. I know it's hard to get out of work for this, but this is obviously a very important event for our fourth graders. Many of them have been here since pre-K, probably most of them since kindergarten, and then we've had some new arrivals that have come as early as just a few months ago. So we welcome them all, we're very proud of them, and ready to have them move on up to their next challenge. So before I continue, I just want to say a few thank yous, including all the fourth grade teachers. Kids, can I get a big round of applause for all the fourth grade teachers, including Ms. Bonfilio, Ms. Jessica Kolarski, Katie Fay, why don't you wave as I call your name, Jennifer Silvestri, and Dottie Durkin. Oh, and Ashley Sears, sorry, Miss Ashley Sears. And then also I want to thank Miss Corley Cody for helping organize this whole event, our wonderful parent liaison, does a tremendous job for us. And I believe in the crowd we have our PTO president, Mr. Mike Stack. Can you stand up, Mr. Mike Stack? Where are you? There he is, wave. We still have a younger sibling, so we're not losing him yet, but he's done a great job this year. So we're going to get right to it. Just before, you're lucky because I'm not making a long speech today, but I do have someone who is going to share a few words. At Pawtucketville, every day we talk about safe, respectful, responsible behavior. Ms. Branco and I don't know if she's here yet, she might be Mandy's mother, who's across the building, but her and I go and visit every classroom. We remind kids about safe, respectful, and responsible behavior. The other thing we always talk about are three things that we call academic skills: perseverance, determination, and resiliency. You may hear those words a lot. So we asked a very special guest to come in and talk about those qualities: perseverance, resilience, and determination. And so I have Miss Riddle Duffy, who's one of our third grade teachers. Can we wave Miss Riddle Duffy? We have her son, Zach Riddle Duffy, who is off to college next year, correct? And he has come in. I had the great opportunity to spend some time with him in California. We, as many of you know, we flew out to California to receive a National Title I award this year. And Zach came along with us, so I got to really get to know him over that week. Wonderful kid. It was Ms. Branco's idea to bring him in as a guest speaker, and I wholeheartedly agreed. So without further ado, I want to welcome Mr. Zach Riddle Duffy up here to talk about perseverance, resilience, and determination.
All right, can we all hear me? Good? Good? Okay. Well, first of all, I would just like to say thank you to Dr. McLean and Mrs. Branco. When I was first asked to do this, my first reaction was, really? Me? Why? But I'm going to try my best, so let's give it a shot. Well, of course, first order of business is congratulations to all the fourth graders that are moving on. It's a big step, of course. And I know all year you've been listening to your teachers, trying to teach you all these lessons, and we're about to move on to summer, and I promise we'll get there, but before we get there, I have to come up and give one more speech, one more lesson, and then we get to our summer. So I'm here to talk about resilience, determination, and perseverance. Now, as many of you have noticed, I walked up here with a cane today, and that is because when I was 5 years old, I got very ill and I lost my eyesight. Obviously, it was a really big change. It wasn't easy at first. At first, all I wanted to do was just continue living life the way I was. I didn't want to use the cane. I didn't want to have to learn Braille a whole new way of life had to be learned, and I didn't really want to do it. But eventually, I realized that I had to accept the predicament that I was in, and I had to make the most of it because I still wanted to live my life. I still wanted to do everything that everyone else did. So, a couple examples. Before I lost my eyesight, I always used to ride around. Whenever the winter came around, I always used to ride around the backyard with my brother. We had a little snowmobile that my uncle had gifted to us. So, what did we do? We went out in the dead of night because my eyes would hurt if I saw the light. We went out in the dead of night. My dad tied himself to the back of a snowmobile, and I drove it, and he yelled directions to me as I drove, and he just had to run and keep up. Now my dad, I love him, but he's not Usain Bolt. Not exactly a sprinter, and I must say I did kind of maybe press the throttle a little too hard. So, I mean, it's a funny visual, just that guy running behind me saying left, you know, and I'm 5 years old, I barely know my lefts and rights anyway, so. But no, things like that. And then, of course, I'm a huge fan of the Boston Red Sox. I love baseball. Yes, Red Sox. And my brother, my older brother, he was playing Little League at the time. And obviously, when you're completely blind, it's very hard to hit a ball, figure out where to throw a ball. But I wanted to do everything he could do, so one day I asked him, I was like, hey, can you teach me how to pitch? So we went out in the backyard, and it took hours and days and months. But eventually, after a lot of wild pitches, after a lot of pass balls, finally I could throw perfect strikes every time. We just figured out a system and practiced at it. And that's the most important thing. I think the message is, if you want to do something, you can always figure out a way. But then things got a little bit more challenging. Then I went off to school again. I went to kindergarten, I went to my elementary school, and it wasn't easy because while all the other kids were learning how to read print, I was learning how to read Braille. You know, there were certain activities I couldn't take place. I was different, and not everyone was the most accepting all the time. Sometimes kids weren't the kindest. You know, sometimes get like left out of activities and, you know, all these things. And eventually, you know, I didn't really know what to do. I didn't know how to fix it because it's not like I can just magically see and, you know, start reading print and doing everything they're doing. So I didn't know what to do. Eventually, in elementary school, finally one kid, he was giving me some trouble. He was saying some things to me that weren't the kindest. And trying to figure out how to put this. I might have taken my cane and given him a firm tap. Yeah, I hauled back and I hit him. So, now, not the best way to handle a situation, and I was terrified when I had to go home with a note in my bag that said, "Dear Mrs. Duffy, Zach cannot use his cane as a weapon." But that day my mother gave me some great advice. She said, not everyone knows, not everyone is as smart as you because they don't know any better. They aren't accepting. You just have to be glad that you know better. And I took that to heart, and ever since that day I figured out, okay, no one is going to be friends with me if I'm the guy that goes around using my cane as a weapon here. So I had to make a plan, I had to change. So what I did was I developed a sense of humor, and I decided it was okay to make fun of myself a little bit. Thank you. I decided it was okay to make fun of myself a little bit. I decided it was okay to try to be a bit more open with people. So I started going to them because a lot of people were intimidated when they saw the cane, when they saw the glasses. So I decided I had to stop waiting around for people to try to talk to me, and I had to go to them and educate them that it is okay. And even though I'm a little different in the way I do things, I still have the same goals as everyone else. I still had to go to school, and I still wanted to do everything that everyone else wanted to do. So it took a very long time. It took years. But eventually, slowly, the tide started to turn. People became a bit more accepting, and by my senior year, I had a great group of friends, and I even won the senior superlative for Best Eyes. That's actually something me and Dr. McLean have in common, by the way. He won Best Eyes. I don't know if something he told me in California. I thought it was funny. But no, and now since then I've learned Braille. I can read Braille, and I am the first Braille reader to graduate from Tewksbury Memorial High School. And next year I'm off to Merrimack College, which I'm very excited for. What also I'm excited for is I'm not going to be walking around